let's talk about hats. I really like to knit hats. They're a quick, easy project. They're great for gifts, especially for kids, because they lose them all the time. So having extra hats is never a bad idea. And I rarely take a pattern and actually just follow it from beginning to end. I tend to just kind of cast on and go. So this one is actually one of my favorite hats to wear. This was done with a chunky yarn. And I just cast on and knit for a while. I think I just had like one ball of this gray yarn. I wear this hat all winter long. It is wool. It is very warm. Sometimes I go a little bit different. For instance, this one has some color work to it. I didn't have a plan. I just knew that these two colors looked really good together. I liked how they looked. I really liked how the pom-pom came out. Which I actually did first, and then I knit the hat. And so I just did it. This one I just did recently, and it has a yarn over knit two together pattern going on there, meant to mimic a hat that Alex wears on Wizards of Waverly Place. This one is another one. Again, wool. I just did a knit stitch. I like when you do a cast on and then you just knit with no ribbing at the bottom. It gets this little curl to it. I really like how that looks. Again, I wear this one a lot. I did not make this pom-pom. My spouse made it for me because they're far better at making pom-poms than I am. And then this one, this is my absolute favorite hat. This is my go-to hat from about October through May, because I live in Maine and you may need a hat any of those times. And again, this one I just kind of cast on and just kind of went. I did this, again, another yarn over knit two together pattern, and I did it in a spiral all the way up. And I really love how this one came out. And I wear it a lot. So the basics of a hat. Depending on your gauge and what weight of yarn you're using, you're going to cast on your stitches. Most of the hats I knit, I do with a chunky yarn, because again, this is my like quick, easy, satisfying project. So I'll do it with a chunky yarn. And size 10 to 13 needles, depending on what I want it to look like. I think most of these I did with a 13, although this one I did with a 10. So you cast on in the round using the Twisted German knit cast on. I'm going to link to Very Pink Knits video of how to do that cast on, because I have tried numerous times now to make a video of how to do the twisted cast on, Twisted German cast on, and I just can't demonstrate it as well as she can. She does a really good job over there. So I'm going to link Very Pink Knits, how to do the Twisted German cast on. So you do your cast on for the amount at the bottom. For most of these chunky hats, it's somewhere around like 50 or 60 cast on. And then if you want a ribbing, do the ribbing. This one I did a knit 3 purl 1 ribbing. This one has, the same, knit 3 purl 1. That's my go-to. I have done quite a few that were a 2-2 or just a knit purl ribbing. So you do your ribbing for however long you want to do it. And then you get to the body of the hat. And when you get to this body of the hat, you want it to expand just slightly. With this one, I did just maybe 3 rows on the original cast on, and then I increased my stitches just slightly. So at this point, after the ribbing, you want to increase by maybe 4 to 6 stitches around, depending on how much bigger you want it to go, to do the body of the hat. And this is where you can have fun. So this is my stitches Bible. 400 knitting stitches. This is not all the stitches. There are so many knitting stitches available, but this is my go-to for I want to make a hat and I know I want it to have some sort of pattern, but I can't decide what I want it to look like, that sort of thing. There's just endless pages of knitting patterns in here. It's a fantastic reference. I highly suggest that book. There are others as well that are also good, but that's the one that I go to. So then you decide what you want for the body of the hat. I've done some where I just did a single cable rib up the side. That can be really cool. There's just endless possibilities. You don't have to follow a pattern. Just do what you want to do. So you do your pattern until the hat is almost done. And depending on what size you want it to be. This one I wanted to fit really closely, so I did the pattern to about here, and then I started a slow decrease. So every few rows, or every row I would decrease by a few stitches evenly around so that it did a really pretty even close up the top. Something like this one, I went a little bit further. If you look at it, you can tell that I didn't start decreasing the stitches until about here. I decreased them pretty quickly so that I would get this kind of wrinkle going on here. I like this kind of bunched up look. I've done that on a few of these. This one you can see has that same kind of bunched up, gathered feel at the top. Same with this one. That's something I really like to do at the top of my hats. I like that look. But again, when I did this one, I wanted something a little bit smoother. So it's a very smooth finish. I placed stitch markers around, maybe I think 6 of them, and I just decreased every time that I hit a stitch marker so that it was even and made a pretty little rounded top. So again, the possibilities are endless with a hat. You really don't have to follow any rules. Just cast on. Do a gauge swatch if you're not sure how many to cast on, but cast on. Make sure you are knitting it slightly smaller than your head, so that, because it is going to stretch, yarn stretches, and have fun with it. There's endless possibilities and there are no rules because it's just yarn. Do what you want to do.